If you've ever wondered how I managed a demanding corporate role, built a business on the side, stayed present with my kids, and still protected my energy, then this episode's for you. But let me be clear up front, this is not a blueprint, and it is absolutely, I promise you, not a productivity flex. What I'm sharing today is a real look at how I structured my days during my corporate years so that my calendar actually reflected what I personally valued, not other people's expectations of me. I want to walk you through how I thought about time, boundaries, and trade offs because burnout doesn't usually come from doing too much. It comes from giving yourself away in ways that you often don't even realize. So if you're tired of feeling it constantly on, stretched thin, or wondering why you're exhausted even when your life looks fine on paper, let's talk. Hey y'all, I'm Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. So let's chat about work life balance. Boundaries are so personal to who you are and what you value. This applies equally to the context of how you approach work life balance as well. So I'm a full believer in work life integration. In fact, that's actually what inspired this whole theme of this episode. And I'm a fan of work life integration for a couple of reasons. Granted, I am fortunate enough to be able to do that. I have always been in flexible jobs. I started out in manufacturing. It was very unflexible, and it is what inspired my career choices more than anything when I was graduating college. But I also believe that work life integration helps me maximize both my productivity and my fun. But despite that being my belief for my own life, I want to honor that what I'm about to share might not be practical for you, and it might not even be attractive for you for that matter. But I thought this episode was important to share anyway because it might challenge some of your own thinking about how you approach your schedule and ways that will inspire you to manage your days differently. But before I do, on that whole theme of boundaries, I want to call a timeout and share that I just rolled out a new boundary self check quiz. It is brand new. It is on my brand new website. I'm really happy with it. And in just 3 minutes, you can learn where you're most leaking your energy and get clarity on your biggest opportunities to protect it. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. Go check it out. Okay, so let's dig into my day. Let me start by saying what I don't do through my week to make this possible, to make my schedule possible, because my schedule doesn't work because I'm doing everything. I can promise you that. It's often because I'm deciding not to do things. I'm making very deliberate, intentional choices around what I'm available for and what I'm not in the season. So I don't do things, as an example, with friends during the work week. I just don't have the energy for it. I'm so tired. Plus, I don't really live close to people. So I don't do anything in the evenings during the work week unless it is happening during the workday. It's just not going to happen. So that often means that I'm having to make up time for work in the evenings. And that works for me because that allowed me, like, I capitalize on the time when my boys aren't available and childcare exists for my friends as well to be able to see them. And then that means that I'm making up my work at night. So again, work-life integration, not work-life balance, not clear boundaries and clear rules. And I'm fine with that and it works for me. But because I don't have the energy during the workday to see friends, that wouldn't be a possibility. And I value friendships a lot. So y'all know I'm going to make that happen. And I know that my rules around not doing thing in the evenings though means that I'm missing out on fun stuff like mahjong clubs and networking events and whatnot. But it's just the season of life I'm in right now. And one of these days I'll be able to prioritize that and make it happen. So I generally make my time with my girlfriends happen over lunches or happy hours or walks right before carpool. Like we're already having to get in our cars and leave the office to go pick up kids. What a perfect time to meet in the middle and get in a good walk. And in fact, I actually really don't take a proper lunch unless I'm taking it with friends. Like that's something that I'm happily willing to sacrifice in order to make things that I prioritize more work. So I would much rather take a walking meeting in order to be able to get outside and get some movement in over a lunch. I just don't value the time for lunch. I think that my husband would desperately disagree with me though. And probably most of you all too. I know it's supposed to be healthy for you. I just don't, it doesn't, I don't need it, I guess. It just doesn't do anything for me. But as with most things in life, that's a trade-off to make space for something that I value more. I also really lean into my B minus standards. If you've been here for a while, you've probably heard me say that many times. So, B minus standards is a principle that I live by. So, as an example, I used to think I needed to look absolutely perfectly polished anytime I'd go to the office. And I put a lot of pressure on myself to look really good. And it was superfluous. It just did not actually matter. So now you'll hear about my schedule. I don't do that. In fact, I go work out on Thursdays and I go into the office with sweaty hair. Like it just is what it is. Good enough is good enough. And I've just stopped trying to be great at everything. And what that's done for me is created capacity and breathing room in my schedule to make what I'm about to share with you work. So as I start to share, I just want to remind you that this is not a blueprint. This is just a case study. In fact, it's my case study. My goal is never for you to copy my schedule because my circumstances are uniquely mine. Instead, it's to help you see what's possible when your career actually reflects what you value. So, my schedule works during this season of life. And then guess what? Soon I'm probably going to go through another life season change and my schedule is going to change. But right now, the schedule I'm about to share with you worked because it matched the season of life I was in. And then when that season changed, my schedule changed. So guess what? Like right now, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. So my schedule is even different now compared to what I'm about to talk you through. I know that that's not as relatable to most people. So I am taking a look in the backwards direction in order for you to get a peek into what my life looked like in corporate. But let me share some meaningful context on my circumstances during that season because I think it's going to help you understand why I made some of the decisions I do and why I'm able to make this work. So, when my boys were little, we had them in half day preschool and an au pair that lived with us. Again, different season of life, different schedule at the time. But now that they're in elementary school, it was just richer to me. We have no local family help. We don't have friends that live near us that we can really take advantage of and carpool with or do much with. We have one neighbor, one single neighbor that we can share any sense of support with relative to the boys. But the good thing about Richard is he's an equal partner regarding household management. Albeit our brains and often our standards look very different, but he's incredibly active at home. And I'm sharing that out of full transparency, not to flex or to justify, but because pretending we do it all alone is one of the reasons that women burn out. So I don't ever want to project that on you all. So Richard and I, our family lives in a place called Mountain Island Lake. It's about 30 minutes northwest of Charlotte, and our boys go to school in the city center. We are very, very, very fortunate that despite being so far away from where they go to school, they actually have access to a bus. It's a really gnarly long bus ride, but they do have access to one. And they generally take it in the morning. And then in the evenings, they will take it only if they don't have evening activities or if we're not doing something as a family. So that tends to be mostly Mondays and sometimes Fridays. So I'm going to share the story and bring to life my schedule based on the workplace expectations of my last corporate role, which was in a big bank. Because again, I think that that hybrid structure of corporate is what many of you can most relate to, which is why I am taking a backwards look at my calendar as opposed to talking about what my schedule looks like right now. I promise you don't want that. Like, I feel like I had more free time when I was in corporate and moonlighting in this business than I am in this business full time, for perspective. So definitely don't want my calendar now. I would not wish that upon anybody. So when I was in corporate, I was expected to be in the office 3 days a week, but thankfully had the liberty to choose what those days were and what the time was. So as you listen to me unfold my week, I want you to notice, not judge, but notice where your calendar feels a little heavy and where it feels a little life-giving. Okay, so let's zoom out then. on my old calendar. So when I zoom out on that week, I tended to go into the office Wednesday through Fridays. And yes, you can call me a crazy person because I chose Fridays as my day to go in. And I did that intentionally because the office was empty then. So I felt like I got a lot more done. I was able to maximize my productivity and make the most of my time. And then I also, on a week by week basis, tend to work out with my trainer on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And I chose those days around my shower schedule. So, or my hair washing schedule to be more specific. So, anybody with long hair, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can see I got a lot of hair. Anybody with long hair out there can get it. I only wash my hair on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings because it's just so time consuming. So that means I schedule any high stake, like think in-person meetings, video meetings, things when I need to look extra polished. I schedule those types of activities on Wednesdays and Fridays only, if I can avoid it, that is. Because that's when I feel my best, because it's when I look my best. It's when I've actually taken the time to wash my hair. Um, but that also means that I'm starting work later, unfortunately, on that Thursday when I was commuting in. So I was always starting that later. This also means I'm not starting work too late on Mondays and Tuesdays because I'm working from home those days and I'm working out those days because I live, I don't know, let's call it roughly it's 25 minutes on a great day, but it's probably 30 to 35 minutes on a realistic day to get from my house to my office in Uptown Charlotte. So it completely handicaps my day anytime I have to go in. But because I'm only working out and going into the office on Thursday, it doesn't seem to disrupt my schedule that much. Okay. So I always chose those days. So Wednesday through Friday to go into the office and Monday, Tuesday, Thursday to work out because I believe that having standard days help me prioritize what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and gave me a lot of freedom to work within that framework. So naturally, it never consistently stay that way. There will be wrenches. Your boss has needs. Teammates come to town. There was just, there were certain reasons that I was changing it, but I appreciated having the default schedule because it allowed me to plan. And then what I would do at the start of every single calendar year is I would put calendar entries on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for every day that week or that year. And by doing that, if something came up, like I had a colleague coming to town, or my boys had an event at school that required me to be in on a Monday or Tuesday, I would rearrange those calendar days so that way it was always very clear what days I was supposed to be in the office, and it allowed me to plan in advance, and that helped so much. It allowed me to be proactive, and I always called it playing offense, not defense on my calendar. I was never reactive because I was always able to get ahead of what I was doing, when I was doing it, and why I was doing it. It also allowed me to tell people anytime somebody would pass me in the hallway, they'd be like, "Oh, hey, I want to get together. Like we should meet. We should grab lunch. We should grab I we should do this." I'd be like, "That's a great idea. Let me check my calendar and I'll let you know the days that I'll be in," because I was able to plan that in advance. I appreciated the flexibility. Some people would be very dogmatic about, no, like I'm a Monday, Wednesday, Friday girl, or I'm a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is actually more often than not. Wednesday parking sucked trying to get in because that was the most popular day. But I thought the freedom and the framework worked really well for my career. It allowed me to plan and to know what's coming down the pike, but it also allowed me to more easily and nimbly move my days and be able to see it at a glance because I had those calendar entries based on the days that I was going to be in. Okay. I also think along that same vein of playing offense, not defense on your calendar, I strongly encourage you to own your own calendar. That's your time and you deserve to protect it. So that means that I don't openly share my calendar unless it's a sales meeting. Then I'll be sure, like I'll let you add time anytime you want. But It means that I don't share my calendar with anybody. And I'm also the one that always offers when I'm available. And I do that because it allows me to intentionally schedule things on days and times that suit me. I'm able to offer, hey, I think Monday at 2 o'clock or Thursday at 8 is perfect because I know those back up against other meetings that are similar in nature. As an example, I really appreciate being able to set the tone and tenor for when my meetings happen. And it also allows me to rebalance things based on my own priorities as opposed to somebody else's. Yes, that takes a little bit more time because I'm the one having to conjure up some possible times, but it does allow me to rearrange based on what's an actual priority at any given moment. And then same thing with assistants. So I have never leveraged an assistant to manage my calendar. Um, I don't encourage you to either. Like, if you, unless you are just so at capacity that you really do need that. I mean, use them for things like expenses and booking travel and research and scheduling rooms. Or what I did use them for is scheduling big group meetings. But I recommend you don't give up managing your calendar unless you really, really have to, because you're the only one that really understands your priorities. You might be able to teach some of that, but it just allows you a lot more agility if it's a task that you own. Okay. What I didn't understand earlier in my career is that calendar chaos isn't just a time issue, it's a nervous system issue. Predictability of my calendar was regulating. Ownership and control of my calendar is also regulating. And most importantly, constantly being in reactive mode absolutely exhausted me. So that's why I recommend that you own your calendar. You play offense instead of defense. Okay, so now let's take a look at each of the days of my week, starting with my mornings. By the way, I am not a morning person, not even a little bit. So getting up to work out, like some of you do before my boys get up, is just absolutely not going to be possible. So I wake up at 7 o'clock, I put my boys in the bus, and then I go work out. But I think it's also worth noting that not only is Richard a morning person, he's the one that takes the morning prep of the boys because I'm so dysfunctional. Um, it's also probably helpful context for you to know that my boys get on the bus at 7:25 and get off at 5:30 on the days that they actually take it home. Because I guess it's Tuesday through Thursday. We have soccer and flag football, so they're having to carpool, but our day is built around their bus times because I mean you have to anchor your day somewhere, right? So I get up at 7, get the boys on the bus, I go work out. After my workouts, I come back and I do a quick shower because my hair washing time is Tuesday, Thursday evenings after I put the boys to bed. And I never start meetings before 10 o'clock. I have a block on every single day to not start before 10 o'clock. That is something you need permission to add to my calendar. I'm probably not going to accept it unless I absolutely have to. So on work from home days, I almost always start at working at 10 o'clock. But on the day that I work out and then go in, so that Thursday, I generally don't even leave my house until closer to 10, to be honest. But I always have a call scheduled for that time. I'm very intentional about making sure that I am capitalizing on my commute to make sure that I am getting work done. I'm aligning with teammates. I am meeting with direct reports. I am debriefing a prior meeting that I needed to catch somebody up to speed on, something of that nature, or having somebody catch me up if it's something that I don't have to take notes on. But I always have a call scheduled for that commute. And I recognize that's not for everyone. I have a client who used to only have to go into the office 2 days, and now she has to 3 days. And it was quite disruptive to her. So we talked about some of the ways to make her schedule work for her. And she was like, I really need my commute to both mentally prepare and then mentally decompress. So the one thing that we did establish she can use her calls for is to catch up with friends and to intentionally schedule that time. So she's getting proper catch ups because they both are present. They're both planning around it. So, yeah, I would occasionally do some of that myself. But for the most part, especially on Thursdays when I was going in later, I think it was, I felt like I needed to be a steward of my company's time and I would take calls then. Um, okay. And then I also make sure that on the days that I work from home, so those Mondays and Tuesdays, that I have a walking meeting. And sometimes those walking meetings, very similar to my commutes, are direct report catch-ups, or sometimes maybe they're a team meeting where I don't need to be on camera, but I try to always make sure I get a walk-in on Mondays and Tuesdays. Okay, then moving on, during the week, I am very intentional about batching my meetings and focus time. So I always have major chunks where my entire day is focused on getting my personal priorities done, like the really big, heavy thinking. And then other days when I am just back to back to back to back meetings. And of course, as I indicated already, on Wednesdays and Fridays when I'm in the office, I try, or mostly Wednesdays, I try to use that for my in-person days. So that way, Friday, when I'm there and nobody else is there, I actually am able to get stuff done. It's also a great day for me to meet girlfriends for lunch because I tend to have that level of flexibility on Fridays in ways that I just don't on Wednesdays. Now, as it relates to my best laid plans, that of course doesn't always happen. Just because I want to take all of my in-person meetings on Wednesday doesn't mean I get that lucky. Just because I want to take all of my group meetings on Monday when, my low stake ones where I don't have to look so polished on Monday, so that way I can have a focus day on Tuesday, doesn't mean it always happens. There are group meetings that sometimes prohibit that level of flexibility and my best laid plans. But because I own my calendar, I'm generally able to protect that time relatively well. So that's the work day. And then I try to end my days by 4 o'clock, or in my meetings, I should say, try to not meet beyond 4 o'clock. On the days I'm working from home, I also like to spend that last hour focused completely on crushing my to-do lists before the boys get off the bus. So it is like truly my power hour. And naturally, there are a few variations of things that look differently throughout the week. I don't have a standard Monday through Friday. It's just impractical, and I'm assuming for many of you it is too. So as an example, on Thursdays, I like to schedule a happy hour meeting. It's normally with a colleague that I am work very closely with and either needing to catch up with or have like a very serious conversation. It just relaxes things, but it's also a great way to wind down my week. On Thursdays, I also am responsible for taking the boys to and from soccer, and I love to have a tradition of treating them out to dinner as opposed to eating at home after Wyatt's soccer practice. So we do that on Thursdays. And then on Fridays, particularly over the summer, Richard and I are pretty disciplined about having a happy hour before the boys get off the bus at 5:30. It is one way that we're able to have quality time together that doesn't happen super late at night and allows us to be present for each other while we still, kind of have childcare in place. So sometimes that takes the form of going paddleboarding or hanging out at the pool or playing a game or just chit-chatting. But we really do try to make that happen on Fridays over summers, most particularly. So if you've been here for a while, I don't cook. I pay someone else to cook for me. So what we do is the boys get off the bus, they take care of their homework. We are very diligent about putting first things first in this house. We actually use that language. I am a big fan of Stephen Covey's 7 Principles of Highly Effective People. The boys go to a school based on it. I have built much of my profession, most especially the culture transformation work I did internally on Stephen Covey's principles. So we use that a lot. So we put first things first, we take care of homework, and then we reheat our dinner and spend some time together as a family. Sometimes that is ping pong, sometimes it's a board game, sometimes, very rarely, is it a TV show. Normally, it's just the boys monkeying around without Richard and me because they want to hang out with each other. They're besties. But we let them, kind of putz around until we start getting ready for bed. And then we prioritize leaving their room sometime between 8:30 and 9. It's later than we desire, but with the boys' school schedule and bus schedule, it's just what works for us. I have one girlfriend in particular that is a very early morning person, and we always joke about how uncompatible our bedtimes are with each other because I stay up till midnight and she is normally in bed around 8:30. And a lot of it is driven by naturally how we operate and what works for our own bodies, but a lot of it's also driven by the school schedule. There's a reason that I'm not getting up till 7 o'clock. The boys' school doesn't start till 9:15. Okay, so I put the boys down. I'm walking out of their rooms between 8:30 and 9. I've already talked about how I'm showering on Tuesday, Thursday evenings. Those are long nights. Those are my hair washing nights. And that leaves Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for some me time because Saturday is always family fun. When I was in corporate, my me time was truly always spent building this business, recording this podcast, really standing up the Working Moms Movement brand and serving clients. So I was building my course then. I was writing a lot of content then. I essentially was building the entire life management system ecosystem. That's a lot of systems in one word. But before then, my me time was often like internet chores. And they really are chores. So think about things like researching travel plans and planning my meals for the week or organizing my calendar, paying bills. All that stuff is, it's all right. It's got to get done by somebody. But I normally do those internet chores in front of my TV, and that became my me time. And that was just as good for me. I don't need to sit there and do nothing. It is, unless I am like cuddling on the couch with my fam, it's just not something I need. So I would use my me time on that Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday evenings doing my internet chores over the TV. And then I also am very diligent about saving any administrative work I have for those nights or the weekends. And what I mean by that is that when I think about my workday, my scheduling meetings, formatting documents, things like that, that are just absolutely mindless tasks, instead of doing those for when I am in peak thinking time, like when I need to be really locked and loaded mentally, I save all those mindless tasks for when I can turn off my brain. And that often happens during those internet chore hours or sometimes even in Saturday and Sunday mornings. I feel like my cheat code for parenting was my sleeping in very early age. We gave the boys tablets and we only let them use them on Saturday and Sunday mornings or when we were traveling. And what that did for us is we told them, like, you can't use it till 8 o'clock because we don't want you waking up early to be able to access your tablets. But starting at 8, you have 2 hours to watch your tablet. So they would wake up after their clocks turned 8, they would come out, they would watch their tablets for 2 hours, and then Richard and I would get to sleep until 10. And even if we're not sleeping, we just got to take it easy. And they did not demand our time or our energy or breakfast or anything until 10 o'clock. So sometimes if we wake up extra early, then I'll do my internet chore kind of stuff on those at that time too, just so I don't have to be on my computer at a later point when I can actually really devote that energy to the family. Okay. Last but not least in the week, that pretty much sums up the weekdays. Our weekends are just full of fun. I am very, very, very intentional about, again, putting first things first, which means scheduling outings with friends. My relationships are so important to me. So as soon as we figure out what our sports calendar is for that season, I am going to like I'm hopping on it with all of my good friends that I prioritize spending quality time with. I want to make sure that can I attend your birthday parties? Can I Can we meet for dinner? When can we get together? When can we see each other? And I always make sure that I make that happen. I also really like to do dinners after school on Friday. And part of it's because we live a half hour away and it's just logistically easier to do it then. Everybody's already in town. I'm working from the office on Fridays. The boys are at school. But also, I've already put on pants. I've already left my house. I've gotten out of my sweatpants. I have put on makeup. I feel like I need to be seen. I need to be able to capitalize on all of that work too. So, there's a practical side of it too. Okay. That hopefully gives you a little bit of taste into what my week looked like when I was in corporate. It again is not for everybody. Actually, in fact, now that I'm on my own, I work almost 7 days a week. And I don't say that to brag. I don't say that to flex, but I feel personally that my days are so much lighter by working 7 days as opposed to working a condensed schedule. Know a lot of entrepreneurs that flex their time and condense everything into a 4-day work week. But those 4 days, man, they just feel really heavy. And I have no interest in that. I don't love working 7 days a week, don't get me wrong, but I also really want to be able to prioritize being able to get my workouts in and my walks and quality family time and self-care and house care and relationships and doing a little bit every day allows me to never feel like I'm sacrificing anything. So it's just evidence that there's no right or wrong. Um, those are two very different seasons of life for me I would have never worked 7 days in corporate. I did want to be able to turn it off, but I'm just in a different season right now. So now is your turn to think. It's your turn to reflect. If you think about your days and your weeks, if you had to name 1 hour of your week that consistently drains you, what is it? And why is it still hanging around? So, one of the things that I offer my clients is a calendar audit. If they can't figure out how to fit it all in, I'm there to help them rearrange the puzzle pieces and challenge some of their thinking. But oftentimes, despite their assumption, most of my clients actually don't need more time. They just need clarity. And a calendar audit from someone else that isn't so close to it can also help us see the truth without that shame. So I'm going to drop my booking link in the show notes. I would welcome a strategy call with you if that is the type of thing you are interested in. Let's get together and let's chat and let's see if I can better understand what some of your opportunities are and where I might be able to help you get a little bit more out of your life. So friend, a good schedule doesn't make you the most impressive. It just makes it possible for you to be more present at work, in your relationships, and just in life as a whole. I actually just got back from my first ever retreat Go Self. It was my first ever luxury moms retreat. And at least half the moms there indicated that their single biggest goal for this next year is to be more present. So having a very calculated, intentional, thoughtful calendar is what actually enables that. It is why I do half of what I do. So I'll leave you with that. And in the meantime, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You've got this, mama. And if this episode resonated, especially the parts about overfunctioning, being the reliable one, or feeling like your calendar is quietly draining you, I want you to listen to episode 71 next. It's called How Work Rewards Overfunctioning and Exhausted Women. In there, we go deeper into how boundary challenges at work slowly lead to burnout, even for high-performing, capable women. If you've ever felt like you're saying yes when you don't really want to, or you're accepting another meeting invite because you believe that's safer than disappointing someone else, or like you're the go-to because you're the reliable one, that episode will put language to what you've been experiencing. I'll link it for you. Go listen when you're ready.